Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with good old Balthazar Gelt, going to be taking the Empire against the Dark Elves. So yeah, Karl Franz is kind of in vogue right now. I definitely prefer Karl Franz in a multitude of matchups, but that's not to say that Balthazar is bad. Lore metal certainly useful, and it definitely has its place in certain matchups. Balthazar himself, a nice variety lord, gives you a good kind of different option to bring different types of builds. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I've got here. We've got Searing Doom, of course, good against low armor, high value targets. Dark Elves do tend to have quite a few of those. We've also got Plague of Rust as well. In particular, Overcast Plague of Rust with that minus 60 armor, only 6 winds of magic. Very good stuff. Lasts quite a long time as well. Just those two. We're going to be spamming those two cheap spells, trying to keep that metal shifting up as much as possible. Metal shifting, of course, map-wide 10% AP and weapon damage. Nice little buff there. And yeah, we've also got Staff of Volans and Arcane Conduit, of course. In terms of the rest of the army, I've gone heavy on the Pistoliers. 4 groups of Pistoliers. We've got a whole front line of state troops with some swordsmen, spearmen, 4 groups of Empire Knights as well, with 2 Flagellants. Super wide build here. Of course, we've also got the Faith Demis, a Royal Altar of Sacrifice supported by a Warrior Priest, copyrighted, patented, all that jazz. Anyway, yeah. So, up against us, we've got a Dreadlord, Sword and Board up on a Dragon there. Let's go ahead and slow it down here because the action's already getting underway. Plague of Rust there on that Dreadlord in just a moment. Looks like Melkos Mystifying Miasma from that Sorceress. Overcast to give some extra range. Slows down Balthazar. With the Foe Seeker on the Dreadlord, looks like they're trying to catch Balthazar there, but with the Plague of Rust, those Pistoliers opening up shots, going to start to do some really solid damage there. Also got a Feral Manticore moving towards these Pistoliers, which is, you know, Feral Manticore is definitely good at shutting down ranged units, but Pistoliers, they have the speed to kind of avoid a little bit there, and they can also do some really good damage, hopefully pop that in rage. We've also got Dread Spears, Black Ark Corsairs in the front line, 1 group of Sisters of Slaughter, the Bolt Fiends, you don't see them too much, Dark Shards with shields, so yeah, we'll get it going here. And again, that Dreadlord taking a beating from these Pistoliers with that Plague of Rust down to only 20 armor, so really, really low armor. And the Pistoliers with their high volume of fire can land a lot of hits here, getting some good effective fire there, down to, oh man, maybe about 60% HP there, maybe 75%. Very, very good stuff. Huge value out of that single Plague of Rust there. You can see Cold One Knights over here as well, moving in on the flank. Feral Manticore did drop down, and you can see how the Pistoliers, if I had been on top of my micro, they actually would have had the speed to pull away there, would have got a nice volley into his face. As it is, though, another group can kind of provide overwatch here, and now I'm going to grab them and pull away. They'll get a nice volley as they pull away, at least hopefully. There we go. It was a little bit limp. But we do have the Royal Altar of Sacrifice hidden in the woods here, so we're going to try and pull back and lay a bit of an ambush. Meanwhile, the frontline engagement getting underway. Empire Knights are going to change this battle here. Corsairs would win this frontline engagement, but Empire Knights riding through their own lines, just lancing down those Black Ark Corsairs. Corsairs only 80 armor. Definitely will take a lot of shock damage on that charge. 80 armor is pretty good, but it's not amazing. Pistoliers just kind of sitting in reserve for now, hanging back. We're also activating the Flagellants. These 2 groups of Empire Knights pushing around this flank. Since I have a numbers advantage, I can kind of fix this entire frontline force and just push around. There are some Sisters of Slaughter waiting in reserve, though. Dragon's going to follow up, try and get on these Empire Knights. A little bit late to interrupt that charge, though. I do get a nice rear charge on those Corsairs there. Flagellant's going to go ahead and follow up as well. We're going to go ahead and just disengage, not try and stay in on that dragon for too long. Go ahead and go after these Sisters of Slaughter here. Meanwhile, on the low ground, I pretty much missed it completely, but yeah. You can pretty much understand what happened just by the remains of the battle here. Royal Altar of Sacrifice chasing off the last of the Cold One Knights there. Empire Knights also managed to escape that situation with most of their unit models intact. Feral Manticore also survived, but at relatively low HP, dropping some Searing Doom there on those Dark Shards. And finally, the Murderous Prowess popping off for the Druki, I should say. Probably a little bit too late. Bolt Fiends getting compromised by Empire Knights, while Flagellants take down these Dread Spears that had won that engagement. Swordsman also getting a nice rear charge on those Dread Spears there, so we should be able to take out those foul Dark Elves. and Balthazar also flying over. We're going to try and get the Pistoliers on the Dreadlord. He's been just fleeing for his life pretty much from Balthazar at this point. Another overcast Plague of Rust. You can see these Pistoliers have swept up and around the side and be trying to get in on this Dreadlord here. The Empire Knights unfortunately are terrified, but we should be able to get a volley or two. Come on, boys. Nope, they're shooting into something else entirely. There we go. They get a couple of shots in there, but yeah, unfortunately not quite in range to really take advantage of that Plague of Rust as much as I'd wanted, but more Pistoliers that had been held in reserve there coming up and around the side, and now we should be able to get some shots in. Come on, boys. I need you to take this dragon down. But at this point, the balance of power is far enough in my favor that I should be able to clean things up on the ground regardless. These Pistoliers, I'm like, you know what? Can't get in range of the dragon. Let's just finish off these Bolt Fiends real quick. Bolt Fiends definitely have neat costumes, but not the best Regiment of Renown in my opinion. They actually have pretty solid combat stats. Might take them in some other matchups, but looks like a Pit of Shades going down there in the front line. Empire Knights can rear charge these Bolt Fiends here. Meanwhile, Balthazar dropping that Searing Doom right on top of those Sisters of Slaughter. Don't really mind if I take out the Flagellants. They're just fine on their leadership, with the Sisters of Slaughter just about giving up the fight there. At this point, we're getting close to critical army losses. The Dreadlord came down, but yeah, he's going to get the full surround from the Pistoliers on all sides and just immediately give up. So, not to blame him at all. I mean, if I was surrounded by Pistoliers and you know, my armor was literally turning into rust and falling off because of Balthazar, I would probably run away too. So anyway, nice, fun, quick battle there. Definitely fun to take a wide Empire build against the Dark Elves and just cackle with Balthazar. No final transmutation needed. Just, you know, regular old Plague of Rust and Searing Doom. Definitely pretty effective in this engagement here. All of the elf factions, to a degree, are weak to factions which can effectively go really wide. Dark Elves, I would probably say, have the best tools for dealing with a lot of chaff and, you know, super wide armies. High Elves are probably the most vulnerable to that. Wood Elves are kind of a little bit in the middle, but all three of the elf factions, to a degree, are weak to going wide. And Empire, with their combined arms, you can really bring some very effective wide builds that just really are a big pain to deal with. You know, it's definitely a lot of micro to have to manage this many units, but you can definitely get a lot of work done. I mean, the Royal Altar of Crypt fights really weren't even contested there. They didn't even do a whole lot here. They mostly just killed the Cold One Knights there. Did some damage to the Feral Manticore, but the Pistoliers definitely the highlight for me, with Plague of Rust on Balthazar just carrying against the Dreadlord there, doing a ton of damage to the Dragon. And yeah, Empire Knights also doing some great work as well, helping to win that frontline engagement pretty decisively. Flagellants with 70 kills, Empire State Troops 63, Swordsmen and Spearmen just super cost effective, honestly. Some of the most cost effective low tier troops in the game, in my opinion. And it's one of the reasons why the Empire, you know, these wide combined arms builds just really wreak havoc against certain factions. Let's go ahead, and because that one was kind of quick, we'll go ahead and take a look at another faction of someone going a little bit less wide, but of course we've got good old Nocti Boy for more summons. But this time we're against the High Elves, of course. They've brought an interesting build, relatively narrow and without a whole lot of shields. I mean, I say relatively narrow. The High Elves, it's pretty hard to go wide. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute here. But yeah, in terms of my build, I've got Nocti Boy with the summons. Also got Invocation of Nehek, and we've got 3 units of Rotting Prometheans, one of which is the Lamprey's Revenge Regiment of Renown. We've also got the Black Spot Regiment of Renown. Huge fan of these guys with their bayonets and their armor-piercing guns. We've also got plenty of non-armor-piercing pistol sword zombies with halberd zombies as well, and another Necrofex just for fun. My opponent's got good old Alariel the Radiant. We've got Heralds of the Wind and Reaver Archers. Front line is White Lions, including the Pure Main Company, which is currently getting lit up by Necrofexes, I don't know. Scions of Mathlon as well in the front line. He's got some Lothern Sea Guard, Keepers of Flame. I would definitely recommend against bringing elite units of any kind against the Vampire Coast. For the most part, there are a handful that you can get away with, but yeah, Lothern Seaguard are going to open up shots. Honestly, not doing that much damage to these gunnery mobs. You can see the Heralds of the Wind trying to get in on the back line, but there's really not that many good targets for them to charge in on. You can see we're going to do a quick about phase with the Black Spot here, start to fire directly into them. That also gives us a bracing bonus, so excuse me, when they charge in, we're not going to be, you know, taking that charge damage. These guys will be able to hold back those Reavers just fine. No big deal there. Meanwhile, Alariel taking some heat from the zombie pistols. Some great cost-effective use there. Over here, these zombies will, of course, eventually lose this fight, but they'll be able to hold back these white lions at least for some time, and the crabs will definitely do some damage here, and they'll hold for even longer. This unit of white lions looks like it was trying to push up through the gap here, but actually got interrupted there. Unfortunately, these gunnery mobs, though, just getting lit up by Lothern Seaguard. Granted, Lothern Seaguard also getting lit up by the Necrofex Colossi. The Pure Main Company pretty much completely offline at this point, and Alariel, no idea what she was thinking here. Tried to dive down on something, but just getting surrounded by crabs and absolutely beat down. She will be very lucky to survive this situation. Was trying to get the crabs on a full surround here. A little bit of friendly fire as well from Nocti Boy. But she is going to, in fact, give up her leadership, maybe? Nope, it looks like she actually does squeak away there, unfortunately. But, yeah, she did take a lot of unnecessary damage, trying to heal back those Pure Main Company, but honestly, a lot of their unit models are gone at this point, so I don't know how effective that's going to be. With the zombie mobs crumbling, the Lothern Seaguard are going to turn their attention to the Necrofex. They probably should have been focusing on him from the get-go. These guys don't have that much armor at the end of the day, only 75, and they're pretty big targets, so the Lothern Seaguard actually probably could have focused him down by now if they had been focusing on him rather than the zombies from the beginning. We'd also dump a Invocation of the Heck into this front line area just to try and hold it up a little bit longer as we win over on this flank. You can see we've been focusing on the Keepers of the Flame here as they've been advancing. Of course, another very expensive unit. Shield of Thorns there, trying to give them some extra physical resistance, but I mean, even these zombie gunnery mobs will do some damage there, even though it's very, very little, just through pure volume of fire. And you can see we have summoned up some deckhand mobs here to help fend off more of the Reavers. The Black Spot not doing great at this point in terms of their leadership, but they're holding up definitely quite nicely. The Pure Main Company did manage to get into contact despite getting blasted by the Necrofex Colossi, but yeah, a lot of the High Elf units, of course, not immune to psychologies despite their great leadership, going to be taking some heat. We've even got 2 zombie polearms just sitting in reserve here, completely fresh, you know, waiting to engage here. There's not really any reason to blob them in at this point. So a lot of people will just blob in all of their forces, but keeping reserve like this, because it keeps their vigor up, you can bring them in the late game, and because they have tons of unit models and you know, fresh vigor, they will be able to do well, like, even against elite units that are very tattered in the late game. So yeah, you can see the Keepers of the Flame there just getting extinguished by the Rotting Prometheans and Noctilus and everybody working together. We've got some summoned gunnery mobs here as well, going to about face and try and go after those Lothern Seaguard over there. Noctilus also opening up shots, so we'll grab some cinematics of the Vampire Coast gun lines moving forward here. Man, I really do love the Vampire Coast. They're a cool faction. Definitely a big fan of gunpowder units in general, and at this point my opponent's going to admit defeat. Probably would have taken me another couple minutes or so to finish that one off, but for all intents and purposes that battle was over. So well played to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. Yeah, in terms of this build, it would definitely cut all of these regiments of renown, except maybe the Scions of Mathlon, but even then, probably would cut them as well. We'll go ahead and go to a build here in just a minute that I would probably take. But yeah, Nocti Boy, 72 kills, great stuff. The summons definitely helping carry as well, and yeah, the zombie gunnery mobs didn't do a whole lot, but the fact that you can pull them up, you know, apply that shot in the back penalty, you can actually, yeah, summon, you know, units behind, charge them in the back, or summon the gunnery mobs behind, shoot them in the back, both of which apply, you know, leadership penalties and route units off pretty well there. Just focus everything down, and because the High Elf build was so narrow and my build was so wide, I was able to keep those reserves. 2 zombie deckhand mobs with the polearms here didn't even see combat. Also, 71 kills on the Black Spot. Excellent, excellent unit. I keep talking about these guys, and I'm going to keep talking about them until the cows come home, because they really are one of the best regiments for renown in the game, in my opinion. Excellent unit for the Vampire Coast. Lamprey's Revenge, likewise, these 2 I would say are the top 2 regiments of renown for the Vampire Coast for me. Pretty much auto-includes in just about every single build, just because the Lamprey's Revenge, they have massive melee defense, regeneration. I've rarely seen them drop a unit model. I mean, they're very much like the Butchers of Kalkengard in that they're just so hard to get rid of, but they're like the Butchers of Kalkengard with 120 armor and zombies standing on their back with shotguns. Granted, they have less unit models and they don't have shields, but I mean, there's some comparisons to be made there, certainly. They're also cheaper. than the Butchers of Kalkengard. So anyway, Necrofex, 104 kills against Elves. That's pretty good, especially this kind of small elite army. And for my opponent, I mean, he did manage to get into contact with a lot of these white lines, and they did win the front line, I guess, but I would say that you don't necessarily need to even invest that heavily. I mean, even HElves Spearmen can beat, you know, zombies in melee. So just in general, HElves struggle with going wide. If you have the Queen and the Crone DLC, then you have access to the Averlorn faction, which gives you a couple more options for cheaper stuff. You can bring like Treemen for 950, which is not bad. 575 for Dryads is not terrible as well. That gives you another cheaper infantry option. So let's say you want to take Alariel up in the air. You're kind of at risk for Harkon, just because Harkon with his magic resistance won't take a whole lot of damage from Tempest, but you can at least control his movements in that way. Shield of Thorns, now I just don't know that I would take this. I'm still not super sold. Earthblood is still 6 Winds of Magic for Alariel, I believe. Definitely would bring all the items here, but let's see, up on the Eagle, yep. Let's see, Banishment. Yeah, Banishment's kind of tempting here, honestly, just because with Vampire Zombies, they're slow, and they tend to have pretty wide, you know, large formations, and if you cast this like in the middle of their gun line, for example, the zombies are not going to be able to get out of the way, and it potentially could end up getting a whole lot of kills. So I might actually keep Banishment here and cut Faw's Protection. That does make Alariel a little bit expensive, but just for fun, we're going to keep that Banishment. We're going to tank up on some Spearmen. We're also going to grab some Dryads for DPS in the front line, and then we're going to come in here and get some Archers, just the regular High Elf Archers. Nice, cheap, cost-effective, and they're faster than most of the units on the Vampire Coast roster, so they can run away. Reaver Archers are tempting. Cavalry is a little bit of a gamble against the Vampire Coast, although you probably want at least a few units. Reaver Archers can beat Hounds in melee, so especially the Heralds of the Wind, of course, with their extra good combat stats, charge bonus, and everything. They definitely can beat Hounds in melee, so something like that. Bolt Throwers for counter artillery fire, always a good idea. Maybe even dump some chevrons into them so that they have better refire rates and better accuracy. So something like this, I think, would be pretty solid against the Vampire Coast. You've got a nice wide front line. The Dryads, while they don't have a missile block chance, they do have 60 armor and some physical resistance. They're also immune to psychology, which really helps against undead factions. So something like this, I think, would be pretty solid. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, though. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.